Okay, and I'm back again to talk more about the unicorn and the goat, right? The goat becomes the unicorn. Remember last video I talked about how it's also the mirrored story in Pisces about the fish. One goes into destruction and one goes into life. Well, in the scenario I told you, the goat went to the waters of life and the lamb went to the destruction. But you should know there's the flip side too, where the goat goes to destruction and then the lamb goes to the waters of life. And I told you about how the lamb goes to the waters of life by him being resurrected. Right? That's the waters of life, the resurrection. It begins again. The story begins again. Okay, so in the story I gave you about the goat turned unicorn, right? He goes to the top and he becomes the unicorn. Remember, I told you that part. Okay, but he also makes his way over to the virgin. Yes. And the virgin, the story of her is she was the young maiden, right? She was a young maiden and very, very beautiful. She had not been with a man, so she was untainted and very pure of spirit, right? And one day she's in the forest and she sees the unicorn. She loves the unicorn. And the unicorn has been being chased for a while and tracked by the mighty hunter that is Orion. Right? And Orion, he is the mighty hunter and he's got his entourage and he wants to use his dogs to go find that unicorn, but he has not been successful. So one of the things that he does, though, is he notices that the young maiden has lured the unicorn with her beauty and her love and her kind, pure spirit. Right? So he talks her into luring the unicorn yet again for him. And that's what she does. She goes along with it. She lures the unicorn in and they trap the unicorn, right? And the story goes they harvest the unicorn's horn. And once they do that, the unicorn's spirit is completely broken, right? And the young maiden, she feels really bad for what she did. And she goes out to look at the unicorn again. And they had put it in a cage, like a fenced in little area, right? And it wasn't there. It was gone. They're like, oh no, what happened to it? So the story's kind of lingering as to what happened. Did the unicorn just die? Did it escape? Okay. And then the story fast forwards to Aquarius, because remember, we started in Aquarius with the waters at Capricorn as the alligator, right? Then he swims through the waters of Aquarius, and then he goes up and he meets the ram, and then he goes up to the top of the wheel, right, at Cancer, and he becomes a unicorn, and then he goes around to Virgo and he meets the virgin, right? And then he goes down to Sagittarius and he's met with the mighty hunter who has the arrow, right? And then next to that's the Scorpio sting of death. That's where they're plotting, the virgin and the mighty hunter. They're plotting for that unicorn. And then come down at the solstice. That's the sign of Capricorn and Sagittarius where they meet, right? And right at that window, that's when the unicorn loses its horn. Right? He gained his horn at the top of the wheel, and at the bottom he loses his horn. Right? And they go and look for him, and he's gone. But the virgin maiden, she doesn't see the unicorn for a long time, so she's just left to wonder what happened. Okay? And then one day, by the waters of life, because this is where the unicorn goes to the waters, right? Unicorn and water is very important. Okay, because the unicorn and the waters of life play a role together. Okay? So she looks out in the forest and she sees the unicorn by the waters of life with its horn resurrected yet again. And she goes to turn away, right? And she looks back and it's gone. Okay? And that's the end again at the waters of life, which is Aquarius. So in both stories of the ram, remember I gave you the story of the ram, how he was the little lamb, he got harvested by the virgin, right? Same thing happens with the goat, you guys. It's his horn harvested by the virgin, right? Something about that girl. Something about that girl. And I can tell you what that means. It's pertaining to woman and how she brings birth, right? But through the birth also comes the death. Yeah, because when you inherit the womb, you inherit the tomb. That is your temple body. And along with that life comes the death, right? But at the end, both stories of the goat and the ram, the end is the resurrection of life in the waters of life. Isn't that great? So in both of those stories, death is not real. I mean, it's talking about the resurrection. Okay. And there's lots of other stories. There's a story about the boat with the row your boat gently down the stream. That's painting the circle of the wheel. Showing you, kind of how life is but a dream. It's a very short window, right? To us, while we're here, it seems like a long time, but technically, compared to all eternity, which we are eternal, it's not an entire lifetime. It's just a short window, right? And I explained that window in your last video that I did about the dice. With the die, you can get multiple dice working, and you got multiple dice. And the Tesseract and how that all connects. So yeah, I thought I would just go ahead and tell you that story too about the goat and the ram, because it's kind of important, because the lamb is also going to link up with the sun. Okay, so in the Bible, when you're reading the story about how the lamb and the lion and the bull, they're going to eat grass together, those are all pointed out because those stories kind of run together in like a similar story. And every zodiac has a different story. So I've already told so many, and I've shared a lot. I've shared you the stories about the Lion King. Let's see, what's another story? Oh yeah, okay, so the centaur. The centaur is the center. Okay, centaur kind of sounds the same. It's talking about finding your center. And the centaur, he is the sign of Sagittarius. He's the wounded healer, but he's also the warrior with the arrow, right? And he plays a role on the hero's journey, right? Because he's the great teacher. Okay, Centaur's kind of like a picture of Thoth as well, because he's very spiritually inclined. He's very knowledgeable in the stars. Okay, and so Centaur with Scorpio, they play a role together. Where Centaur, he's destroying Scorpio, which is death, right? And his arrow protects us from the sting of death. And if you go and you look up in French, as one of my great teachers has shown me, French, the word for flesh is arrow. What do you think about that? So literally, the arrow, which is the flesh, protects you from death, because your body is the Christ. It dies in your behalf. You don't die. Your body does. When you do die, or when you do get ready to pass on and you exit your body for the last time, because technically every night we're practicing death. Every night when we go to sleep. Practicing leaving our bodies and return. We go somewhere and we return. So yeah, your flesh, your body, you should really thank your body for all the things that it does for you. It's literally going to protect you from dying, because it was designed that way. It's a part of the program here, and it stays on the earth. You don't take it with you. So you really do need to develop your spiritual body, which is light. You need to make your light shine. That's why when we sang this song, "This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine." Right? And so you got to kindle your fire, guys. You got to make it burn bright. You got to do things to make you happy. Happiness makes that fire real good. Stoke it. Stoke the fire. Add more to the flames. Burn like the sun. Burn for all eternity. May you be successful.